Childhood is super important, and going to share some of those numbers with you all this morning, right? Because since early childhood is super important, obviously the work continues into next year. So right now, we have about 855 new students coming into Vanguard for the 23-24 school year. So 855 new students, an increase of 15%, right, overall, which is pretty good, right? And so our early childhood center and FAR continues to grow. So obviously we, at all of our schools, all of our elementary schools, we have pre-K 3 and pre-K 4. So we continue to enroll pre-K 3, pre-K 4 students at all of our elementaries because of the continuous growth, right? But why we're here this morning, obviously those numbers are important, right? Because the enrollment continues to go up and up every single day, right? And so that excites me because we get to make a difference in the lives of children, of the young people that come to Vanguard Academy. And so, the last 3 years obviously have been very, very tough on everybody, on teachers, educators, leaders, right? And why? Because obviously the gaps that the pandemic has caused, right? And so last year we closed all reading, language arts, literacy gaps for our students, right? Completely closed those. And math, we closed tremendously those gaps, but not completely like we did in reading, language arts, right? And so the reason we closed those gaps, right? And that's the data that I'm going to share with you this morning, right? The reason we closed those gaps is because we were very intentional with our ESSER funding. So we knew that we had to really attack every single grade level from pre-K 3 all the way through 12th grade, right? Because the gaps were significant at every grade level. And so some of the goals that we set with our board of directors and with our leaders and our teachers, right, was to ensure that we close those gaps in literacy and in mathematics. And so super excited because in pre-K, right, which is pre-K 3, pre-K 4 grades, right, what the data tells us in January, or told us in January, because we had this discussion back in January, right? And today, fast forward 3 months later, we're already in April, right? And so this data is from 3 months ago, back in January. And so right now, currently, our pre-K 3, pre-K 4 students have grown tremendously from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year in January. So from August to January, they grew about 21%. We are almost at pre-K 3, pre-K 4, at the middle of the year, we were almost at where we're supposed to be at the end of the year. So I'm super excited because next month in early May, we test our students at pre-K 3, pre-K 4 for the end of the year, right? And so that end of the year assessment provides us, and it's called CPALS, it provides us with an updated closing the gaps measure, right? As to where our kids, start off back in August of 22 and where they're ending in May of 23. But at the middle of the year, what the data shows us is we're almost there at where we should be at the end of the year for pre-K 3, pre-K 4, right? We move forward to kinder, right? Tremendous work that these teachers are doing at kinder, because we look at the beginning of the year, they were already above the board and administration goal. They were above that. Well, from beginning of the year to middle of the year, our kindergarten students have grown 8%. And so that's tremendous because almost 80% of our kindergarten students, according to our M-Class exam, which tests our students at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the year, almost 80% were already on grade level at kinder for literacy. And these students were in pre-K 3 when the pandemic started, right? Or right before the pandemic started. And so actually they had not attended school yet. But the first year, when we came back from remote instruction, these students were in pre-K 3, right? And so it was pretty remarkable seeing this data, right? And so we move forward to first grade, right? And our first grade students at the middle of the year have already surpassed what the goal was for M-Class. Our first grade students at the middle of the year already surpassed what the end of the year goal was. 60% are on grade level, right? Which grew 7%. But we have to recall that these were the students that were in pre-K 3 when the pandemic hit. When the pandemic came in, our first grade students were in pre-K 3 and at Vanguard, right? And that's why we believe in our pre-K 3 program, because if the goal was surpassed at the beginning, at the middle of the end, and beginning in the middle of the year, we're excited that we'll probably hit about 80% on grade level at first grade, right? Last school year, 21-22, was the first year we came back from, remote instruction. We came back to in-person instruction. And our second grade students at that time were incoming first graders last year. They were in pre-K4 when the pandemic came in, and they were in kinder when 50-60% of our students were doing remote instruction because of the pandemic and because there were so many positive cases and infections with COVID, right? So remarkable that when our current second grade students were in first grade, they were the lowest performing students at the beginning of the year, 21-22 last year. And so we did something different. We placed a teacher assistant in every classroom in first grade at that time. And so by the time the end of the year exam came in for our first grade students, right, they had improved over 30% growth. They had the most growth. They had about 36-37% growth at first grade last year, these second graders. So when the school year started at the beginning of the year, about 30% of them were on grade level last year. Fast forward to the end of the school year, 21-22, 67% of them were on grade level at first grade by the end of the year. They were the grade level with the most significant improvement and growth. And so that's attributed to the great work that our teachers are doing in the classrooms, that our principals are leading at their campuses, and just the support of the parents, right? Right now, they're in second grade now, and at the middle of the year back in January, they were almost at the middle of the year, at the end of the year goal. So the goal was to have 65% of our students at the end of the year be on grade level at second grade. Well, our current second graders were already at that level in January. So I believe that by May, which is a month away, about 80% of our second graders are going to be on grade level already, which is great because next year, our current second graders test STAR for the first time at third grade. And so super excited with the remarkable growth that I wanted to share with you since January with our early grades, but then our early childhood, right? Such remarkable work that our teachers are doing in the classroom. And they're able to do that work because they have the support of their principals, they have the support of our content coaches, and we provide our teachers everything that they need for our students. We understand that the work is tough, right? For a year and a half, it was either remote instruction and not much in-person instruction. And so that changed last year. And so for a year and a half, we lost and we had gaps in mathematics and in literacy. But the last year and then this year, right, these last 2 years, our teachers and staff, with the support of our board of directors, we have significantly closed those gaps. And so it's attributed to also the hard work of our early childhood teachers at pre-K3, pre-K4, and kinder. And then the early grades of first grade and second grade and third grade, right? And so something that, other data that I wanted to share with you right now, Vanguard Academy has the highest and highest performing students at early childhood or kinder readiness in Hidalgo County, right? And we had the most students that were tested, over 98%, almost 100% of our students last year were tested for M-Class to see if they were kinder ready. And so super excited because our teachers are doing a remarkable work, right?